Hey everybody, it's Dave and Daniel.
What's
doing
up?
a live show.
Yay!
Hope you guys are doing well.
Oh my gosh.
It's Dave's Allen Instruments. Thank you for showing up today and checking out our live show. We're going to be talking about handpans and how to figure out what you want. There's a lot of handpans out there these days, and so it might be like confusion central for a lot of you who are looking for handpans. So we just want to like talk through some of these different variables and give you guys some info.
Yeah. Actually, the holiday season's coming up.
That's true.
For those of you that have been thinking about getting a handpan or hadn't had a chance to hear them, this is the time. So I see some people on. If you guys have any questions or want to hear a specific handpan, we can absolutely do that for you today and answer any questions. But we've been doing this for quite a while, right?
Quite a while.
Yeah.
Years and years and years.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons why people buy them. But first of all, it's people need to know about the handpans, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep, I've been making handpans for about 13 years. Before that, I made steel drums since 1993. So I've been doing this for 30 years, making musical instruments out of sheet metal, essentially. So a lot of people have questions for me. I frequently asking or answering questions for people about the instruments that we build here. One of the things we want to talk about just in general is sound quality. So a lot of people wonder like what the difference is between the different kind of handpans that are available online or in the different from the different makers. And sound quality is a big one. And one of the things we've noticed with customers that come into us is frequently when they hear some of our handpans, like especially the RS models, they're just like, oh, that's the one.
This is a special one, actually.
Yeah, this is an ohm drum. So it's got the RS top, and then on the bottom, whoa, it's got tongues on the bottom, which is a very unique. So we call this the ohm drum. But in general, people are usually that's the RS over there, RS 12.
Yes.
But yeah, the sound quality is really important to people, and so when they come in here and they test out different models and tell us stories about what they've purchased in the past, a lot of people come to us and say, hey, I got one online, and can you tune it? So frequently I'll work with that. And there's a lot of people are kind of disappointed with what they got, like it's not quite the sound that they were looking for. So we really feel good about the quality of our handpans here at Dii. So the sound quality is really important to a lot of people. And if anybody has any questions about that or comments, let us know. We'd love to answer questions.
Cool. I see some. Anthony Bell is on. Actually, I've talked to him on the phone. I think he's in New Jersey. Hey, Anthony. Yeah. He was thinking about getting one of these, the RS, so he can check that out while we're playing it now. Stealing Happy Hours. My dad's ukulele. I'm interested in him. What skills do you recommend? Okay. Stealing Happy Hours. Here's one up here. My dad's a ukulele player. I'm interested in the handpan. What scales do you recommend to accompany the ukulele? Major, minor?
Oh, okay.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. Scales, another thing too. There's a lot of scales out there. We primarily hang out with the D minor scales here at Dii. I've found over the years that a lot of people really like the sound of the D minor scales. It incorporates, you've got like A minor options, you've got D minor options, you've got C major options, F major options. So it kind of fills the gamut of like a lot of those regular keys that people are playing in, especially like on ukulele.
Yes.
So that's really helpful. I also like just D minor in general. People just like the sound of it. I used to offer varieties of scales, and frequently like 80% of people would try to choose a D minor anyway. So I just thought it was interesting. But in general, it sounds really good on the size of the instrument we have also. Depending on the different notes that are tuned on a handpan, some notes sound a little quirky compared to other notes. And that's just usually like a factor of like how big the instrument is or small the instrument is, because it has natural resonances within the inside of the instrument that can cause notes to sound good or bad. And so we've kind of pretty much stuck with the notes that sound good because we want you guys to be happy. And so that's how kind of how we've discovered just sticking with the D minor scales is a really good option.
Yeah. And playing with the ukulele, because I play ukulele, and actually we do have a video on our YouTube if you guys check it out, me and Dave playing ukulele. Or I'm playing ukulele, Dave is playing the handpan, and it was in a D minor scale, but that's all you really need to know. It wouldn't. The ukulele could play all the keys. It's just depending on the handpan that you actually get. And like Dave said, D minor is a popular.
Yeah, it's really popular.
Yeah, it's fairly popular.
One thing that you do have to think about though is like somebody recently talked to us with us about playing church hymns, like songs at the church. And D minor doesn't always fit the church hymn, so you sometimes have to figure out how to work with the notes that you do have with certain hymns. And also you can use the instrument as like a rhythm instrument. It doesn't always have to be pitch-based, so you can play like, right? So maybe let's say a song isn't quite working with the notes you have on your handpan. All of a sudden just use it as a rhythm instrument and people are like, yeah, it's cool. So,
just like this handpan that I have in my hand, you have one that has multiple keys that you can basically use because this one has multiple notes. This is primarily a D minor, but I believe it has over 12 to 15 different scales on this actual handpan. So,
right. Yeah, because that one has a low F here, so you can do like F major. It's got a G over there. You got like a G major kind of thing, C major, A minor,
and then the B.
Yeah, B. You have an E minor in there also. So yeah, pretty cool options.
So I think in actually talking to the church guy, I go, yeah, this is your best bet because you have more options to play along with all the other, I guess the church hymns and
varieties of things.
Yeah.
Tuning is also a big issue for handpans out on the market. I've noticed like kind of an increase in the amount of handpans that come into us that are maybe not built by us, and they're like a little bit out of tune or a lot of bit out of tune. And so that's an issue, and unfortunately you can't always figure that out when you're buying something online. You kind of have to trust the vendor. We always do things where we're working with the customers, like we do online videos.
I think Anthony, we had an online video, and I got to share with him, even though he was on the East Coast. I sat with him and went through the different ones, with today's video technology and Zoom. It's pretty easy to check out. So.
Yeah, so it's really cool. We can show you exactly what it's going to sound like, if not the exact instrument that we're working with you on.
Yeah.
And also, if you do buy one from Dii, the first tunings are always free. So let's say 3 months from now, 6 months from now, you go, hey, something sounds a little bit funny. You just send it back or bring it in, and the first tuning is free. So we really pride ourselves on that kind of aspect of service for the customer. Thank you.
Dave is the master tuner. It's awesome.
Yeah, so I really like making sure the customers are happy, and that's what it's all about, is making sure that you guys are happy with what you purchased. So that's very important. Sound quality, ding notes sometimes are the one culprit that people really want to have a good sounding ding note, and frequently those are the ones that somehow don't always sound good out there in the marketplace. Now this is like a classic one that was given to us by somebody who bought it off of a famous online retailer.
Yes.
And this one, it looks like a handpan. It's a smaller one. It looks like a handpan, but each one of these is only tuned to a single harmonic. So normally each of these handpan notes has at least 3 harmonics that are tuned correctly to it. So usually it's a fundamental, an octave, and a fifth. And it has to be tuned just right, and all of those harmonics have to line up just perfectly in order for it to have that really nice handpan shimmer. But that one only has the 1 harmonic out of the 3, and so it's kind of got some pitch to it, and some people kind of go, hey, this is fun to jam on, but it's not really the handpan sound that people are looking
for and stuff like
that. All right, looks like we've got another question or comment.
Let's see. I did watch both of your videos recently of you two. This is Stealing Happy Hours. Playing together on the uke and the handpan. Didn't know what scale the handpan you were playing. Sounds like it was D minor. Yes, it was D minor. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So it's always a good option.
Yeah, I like that scale. It's good. D minor, F, and then all the things that go with it.
Yeah, and it's also interesting too. Like since these have limited notes, and you can't expand always on the notes that are on the handpan, you can expand on the notes that are on the ukulele or piano or guitar or whatever. So for instance, this has a D and an F, right? Oh, I think the D and F are over here. And if you have a ukulele and you play a B flat chord, well, D and F are part of the B flat chord. So you can actually kind of play B flat along with the ukulele. You just have to kind of think about it, think through how you want your arrangement to sound,
Yeah.
and which chords you're using to make sure that you can kind of have those notes available to you on the instrument. So yeah, sometimes it's just little sneaky ways to get away with things.
No, absolutely. You don't have to play all the notes on the handpan either. So
Right. Yeah.
Like people think I need to touch everything, but it's kind of fun to be simple. Like you know, it's really good to be simple.
Yep.
I've been particularly drawn to low dings, F2 and such.
A lot of people like those low dings. Yeah, myself as a tuner, I kind of experimented with those a couple times. I'm not a big fan just on my part. I don't have a problem with it. I kind of do dig that low sound also. But I found that there are some quirky things about the tuning of the entire instrument that are not always consistent. And so I like to have consistent product. And so I kind of move away from some of the really low stuff, because some of those harmonics to me sound a little bit wishy-washy or sometimes a little bit inconsistent. There might be one instrument that sounds great, but then another one is made, or I see in another one and I'm like, oh, that one sounds a little funky. So
Dave's such
that's
a
just
nerd.
my nerd, inner nerd speaking. But
He's such a tuner nerd, but
Yeah.
you want him to tune your handpan, definitely.
Yeah, so that's why I haven't really gotten into those too much.
No, that's funny.
432 hertz also is something that people are interested in from time to time. A lot of people think 432 resonates with the universe in a different way, or feeds the body a different way with harmonics and the resonations and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an option also. The only thing you have to think about is if you buy a 432 instrument, 432 hertz tuned instrument, it's always going to be slightly lower in pitch than all the other 440 instruments that are out there already. Piano, guitar, flutes, whatever you might have. Some instruments you can tune them down to match it. But if, like, let's say you're going to play along with a song on YouTube or play along with a song that's recorded, most of those songs are going to be in 440. So you always have to make sure that if you buy a 432 instrument, you really have a specific purpose for that, and understand that it's not always going to match up with the other instruments that are out there or other recordings and that sort of thing.
Well, a lot of people, that actually come to us are sound healers,
Mm-hmm.
and they do look for a specific pitch because they're trying to do a specific thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and also a lot of people have 432 singing bowls.
Singing bowls,
Or
yeah.
crystal bowls, that sort of thing. So if you're trying to match your singing bowls or match with your singing bowl, crystal bowls, that might be a good option.
Yes.
Because you wouldn't want a 440 handpan playing with 432 singing bowls or crystal bowls. That would not match. So yeah, that's a really good reason why you would want to have a 432 instrument.
No, absolutely. So.
Yeah. Build quality, note shapes. A lot of people are always kind of wondering about the note shapes. Some people have circles, some people have ovals. There's all sorts of different
There we go.
changes, or not
There's
changes,
an
but
oval.
variations.
And then yours is a circle.
Oh yeah, one's a circle on top, the other one's like an oval.
Yeah.
It kind of, that stuff is a little bit nuanced. For instance, like I tried an oval on this one versus a circle here, and this one might have like a slightly different sound, might have some slightly different harmonics that are resonating, and we're talking like these little wishy-washy harmonics that are not really tuned. It's just kind of like a quality sound, and it changes the quality of the note a little bit. But overall, it's the same pitch. So like this is a D, this is a D. All the harmonics are the same, D, D, A, D, D, A. And so it's not so much that it changes the pitch or anything like that, or changes the sound, it just changes the quality of the sound a little bit. And for some people, they can hear it, some people can't. A lot of times the tuners like myself are just trying to experiment to see if it does make any changes, and this and that. So
I've played a lot of different ones, and then the way that Dave has made dings and stuff like that. I think the notes have never changed. They've always been this way or this size.
Oh, the dimples? Like,
yeah,
the sizes.
Just the way the side notes are always been the same, but the ding has changed over time. Like for example, like the ones we currently have. Before it wasn't this double ding, and that one kind of wobbled a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then when you added the double, it kind of calmed down. But it wasn't a good or bad thing. It was just different.
It's just a little different.
Yeah, it's just
like
different.
I kind of like this one right now. The one I've started with this one, it's got the circular ding on it, but it also has like a little secondary. I don't know if you can see it in the image there, but it's like a secondary ring around the main ding dimple, and I kind of dig the way it sounds. It just has a little bit more of a darker sound.
Yeah,
And I kind of like
it's just
kinda
tighter.
dig
It doesn't wobble as much.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
it's just tighter because it has that, I guess, a stiffer ding ding.
Yeah, there's something about it that I like.
Yeah,
So I like that one.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. What are your thoughts on material? Actually, we're getting.
Oh yeah, okay. Material's coming up.
Good questions.
We got all
Thank
listed
you.
down here, by the way.
Thank you, Stilly. Happy
Yeah, oh my God,
hours.
it is literally the next one.
It's
Material.
the next one. Yeah,
And materials
you're
is
going
still-
down our list that we wrote down here.
Yeah.
So funny.
So over the years, I've worked with all sorts of different kinds of steels. I first started with just plain steel, regular old sheet metal made out of, they call it carbon steel. And that's the same kind of steel that steel drums are made out of, which are made out of barrels, like literally 55-gallon steel barrels. And they work totally fine for making handpans. There's some people that were like totally into nitrided metal, and that's what this is here. Nitrided steel is basically plain steel that's put into an oven at a high temperature. They take out all the oxygen, they put in like ammonia and nitrogen or something like that, and they bake it in that oven for some kind of amount of time, and it creates kind of like a ceramic finish on the outside of the steel. So you can kind of liken it to an Oreo cookie, where the cookie part is hard, but the soft part in the middle is soft. And so
hard on the outside, soft on the
That's right. Yeah. So the steel, even though as thin as it is, it's got like a little hard layer and then the soft malleable layer that's inside. And so the other nice thing about nitrided metal is that it also resists rust and corrosion. So it's a very durable kind of finish, and it does have like a certain kind of a little bit of a different sound than plain steel.
Yeah, it does.
Different sound than stainless steel.
Can play a little bit.
Yeah. So it's a little bit mellower, a little bit darker than the stainless. So that nitrided steel is, like I said, a little bit darker, a little bit warmer than the stainless, but it's a little bit more resonant than plain steel. Plain steel tends to have its own kind of sound, especially on plain steel. The problem with plain steel is that it rusts pretty easily, so you always have to coat it with something that's like a permanent coating. So previously, I used to have the Luna models, which I had powder coated. And I thought that was a great option. It actually really worked really well.
Yeah,
and they kind of had like a punchy sound, very percussive sound, but it was not nearly as resonant, or the sustain was not nearly as long as the stainless steel. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, everyone has their different opinions on what they like. Mm-hmm. And so some people like that sound. They like it when it's a little bit punchier, a little bit more rhythmic, percussive, and that sort of thing. So it all kind of depends on like your personality, what you're using the handpan for. The purpose involved with the whole thing.
No, absolutely. You know, I talk to a lot of the people that actually buy the handpans, and right now we have these two models, nitrided versus stainless steel. And then, like Dave was saying, it comes down to why. Why do you want it? Normally what I see is that the sound healers or the people that are taking it personal, you know, they just want it to relax. They love this. Just this flowing, ethereal sound that the Aura says. It's just that it makes you feel good. So that's what they like about that. Other people, you know, they like the melancholy sound. Actually, I tell people if they're like recording or playing like with other people, this is a little bit better to play with other instruments because it doesn't like keep on going.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and it just kind of like it's tighter, I would say. So
yeah, I was going to mention the same thing.
Yeah.
So my experience in the recording studio with handpans is that sometimes a drier sound is better than a long sustain kind of sound, because if you ever have to do any punching in or cutting like a certain thing and then putting in like another audio clip in next to it, if you have a lot of sustain, then it gets like clipped off, and it's really obvious when you make a clip or a cut or an edit or whatever, like when that sustain drops off, you're like, what happened to that note? It all of a sudden it dropped out.
Yeah.
But if you have like one that doesn't have as much sustain, you can always add reverb to it. Whereas this, you can't ever undo that reverb. It already has this extra reverb.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, it's like weighing the balance of what you want to use the instrument for. So if you want to use it in recordings, maybe a little bit of a drier sound is better. But if you're using it live for personal experience, you just want to like totally just get absorbed in that sound, Auris is the way to go.
climates also make a difference too. Some people are like, oh, I'm in a wet climate or something like that. Stainless steel obviously is better because it's in wet climates because it's not going to rust. This coating does, it is not permanent like this gold color. It's actually this silver is the color. So this can come off, but doesn't mess with the sound. But it's waterproof for sure.
Yeah.
So, it's stainless steel. It's not going to rust.
And it doesn't readily come off. You can't, like, rubbing it won't make it come off, that color. I've done some experiments over time, and I found that salt water actually removes it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, like, perspiration, if you see some sweat, you just wipe it off as fast as you can, make sure it's dry, and it's no problem. But it's when that salt stays on the instrument, like overnight or something like that, it can kind of eat away at the gold color.
Yeah.
And
then on the nitrided, it's just a little bit more maintenance because you have to, just make sure that it's always dry.
Yeah,
all
sure.
the time.
And pretty much all these instruments,
All
you
of it,
want
you
to
wanna
keep them,
do it
even
like,
though
yeah.
they're made out of these special metals,
Yeah,
you always
yeah,
want to
yeah.
make sure they're dry. You don't want to leave them in a case. Frequently, some people, and this has happened to me personally, like I played a steel drum at a beach event, put the instrument in the case when I went home, and then I left it in the case for like a week or something, and I opened it up, and there was all these little speckles of rust because that saltwater environment, all of that moisture inside the case stayed inside the case because I didn't open it up when I got home.
Yeah.
So same thing with these. If you ever play it in a beach environment or a moist environment, you always want to make sure when you take it home, open it up, wipe it down, let it air out a little bit so all that moisture gets out of the case.
Right. Sometimes people just go with the color too. Like, I like gold. I like
Right,
blue.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're similar in sound, but sometimes people are like, I've seen that, like, oh yeah, I want this color, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
But thank God it was Dave's Islands because they said they both sound good. So
There you go. All right. So another thing a lot of people ask about is hammer marks, and you can see like on this one that we were playing around with earlier. It looks really clean. It's like a nice looking instrument. It's got nice sharp edges on it and everything like that. You really don't see too many hammer marks. Whereas on mine, you might see a few more hammer marks, and you might see that some edges aren't maybe quite as clean as this. But the way I make the handpans is totally different than the way this one was made. I use hammers, and I hammer the steel between each of these notes on all of the handpans to kind of tighten up the steel. And then when I tune them, I'm obviously using hammers, and I do a great deal of tuning on them, so I'm really trying to refine the sound. Whereas on something like this, it's only been hit a couple times because they were only tuning that one pitch. And so you might not see as many hammer marks. And there are other options. Some people are like really, some tuners are really adept tuners, and they can make a beautifully sounding instrument with, with hardly any hammer marks at all. But the end result is the conversation is basically hammer marks don't necessarily mean that it's a bad product or a good product.
Right.
It's just kind of the way the tuner has worked on the instrument. So
actually, that's probably one of the things I would look for are hammer marks.
Okay.
It hasn't been tuned, you know what I mean? And a lot of people don't know about that, like a tuned handpan versus, what they're actually, or a non-tuned one, which you actually saw, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. So it's sometimes a style, it depends on the tools and the style of the tuner and methodology. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, for sure.
Price.
So hopefully that answered your question about the different metals. So it's actually up to personal preference. And honestly, what I believe is like you're looking for the sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's the sound quality that you want. And when you listen to them, I've had people lined up. We have several here, and people will go to each single one. They may have wanted this. They thought they wanted this instrument, but when they sat down with the one that really resonated with them, they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get that.
Yeah.
So.
And another thing too with like the steel, the type of steel it's made out of, it reminds me of guitars. Some guitars have steel strings. Some guitars have nylon strings.
Yeah.
They're all the same guitar. They're all tuned the same. You could have an excellently made guitar with nylon strings. You could have a superior guitar with steel strings. They're both going to sound great, but they have different strings.
Right.
And so it's kind of like the same with the steel. It's just it gives it a different quality of sound. So you just need to make sure that they're both tuned as well. Like so, some people might think that a plain steel instrument might not sound good, But if you've got a great tuner, it's gonna sound good.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
no,
just gonna be a
absolutely.
different sound. It's gonna have a different sound quality to it.
Actually, when Dave says that, I go, if you're gonna get a handpan, make sure the handpan maker is a tuner. That's all I
Right,
can
yeah.
say. Like, because I've seen some handpans, they're not tuners, and that's where it falls short. I believe so.
Yeah.
Because you want a good sounding handpan, and they're not. This is an investment, definitely. So you want something that sounds good. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on budget?
Budget.
'Cause sometimes people come in and are like, hey, I only have this much to spend, or
You know what? It's all up there right now. 90, I would say 90% of the people that buy handpans are new to instruments or music in general. And for some reason, and this is why the why is very important, and why they're getting it. They came here and they want the sound. And to be honest, I played a lot of instruments. I played them all, but this is a fabulous instrument. Not only for personal use, performing and whatever, but for some reason it captures the player, and that's what people want. So I forgot what my point is. What was the question?
or just the budget. Some
Oh,
people have a
budget.
yeah.
So, we these are handmade. So what would you pay for a handmade
Yeah, it's
instrument?
handcrafted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
handcrafted. And even in any instrument, if it's like one of a kind handmade, and these are all, there's gonna be a price to it. And Dave is only one person, and for budget wise, I would say get the one that you can afford, like the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what you want. It's same with ukulele. Like, I have a lot of people like, what do I want? They ask me this question. Actually, this will probably answer the question. What is a beginner handpan? And then my question back to that person is, are you looking for the least expensive, or are you looking for, one that, the best sounding or whatever, or one that's that? And then they go, oh yeah, I want the best sounding one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was it? Beginner is, oh god, I forgot how I said it, but yeah, I would say, like, it's are you asking that the easiest? Oh yeah, the easiest to play, or are you looking for the cheapest handpan?
Right.
That's the question.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes a low-cost instrument is actually more difficult
It's
to
more
play
difficult to play
because
yes.
it's not tuned very well.
Yes.
So then they're trying to get these beautiful sounds out of this instrument that's not tuned very well, and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So for example, like we have rentals that people are trying out, and it's not a representation of an Oris. We can't rent an Oris, right? But this actually, the Oris is easier to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
This one is
super
like
easy to play.
really, it's easy to play.
Yeah.
So
The other thing too, if you're at DII, we recognize that some people don't always want to pay a lot of money for an instrument when they haven't even maybe played it, or they're unfamiliar with it. And that's why we do have the rentals. We think
Yeah.
it's a really good option for people.
yeah.
So we've got handpan rentals, and the rental that you pay per month, we allot up to 3 months of that can be used later on after you return the rental to use on the payment for a new handpan. So it's a really good deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The rental part, we have a lot of people that want to try it out, see if it's for them. See if they can be consistent in playing, because music is not about just having the instrument. It's about practicing,
Yeah.
and that's where you want to be. Can you sit here and practice this instrument? And I think it's a great instrument for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
For the sound, for the benefits, all those things, it is great.
Yeah.
But Anthony Bell had a
Oh,
question.
okay.
Let's see. You guys are great. Thanks for explaining. Oh, do you have an October sale? Yeah, Anthony, you missed the October sale, but
Christmas
call us.
is coming.
Yeah, Christmas is coming. Call us or call me. We'll talk. We've already been talking. But talking about sales, I think we have some. We're
gonna be putting some stuff up for sale in the holiday time coming up.
Yeah, there's gonna be something coming up, and it might be a live show on Instagram. So who knows?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So we might a lot of people are doing live sales. So we might do one. Actually, we are going to be doing one coming up. So stay tuned.
I think that was going to be in like this Thanksgiving time, somewhere around
that time. So
yeah.
So save your pennies, be ready because it'll be a good sale.
Yeah, but until then, like again, like those rentals are great. We just love the way the rentals work here.
Yeah.
Because it's just a soft way to enter if you're somebody that's learning how to or wants to learn how to play handpan, maybe never touched one before.
Yeah.
It's just great because sometimes people will rent it for a little while and they come back, they're like, I'm ready to buy, and they just totally are into it. They love it. Other people have returned it like, it just wasn't for me, which is perfect because then they didn't have to go through the whole process of like worrying about the money and all that sort of thing. So we're really proud about that rental option for customers.
And then we answered the question of the budget. Yeah, I think so. There we have a lot of options. I know it's not a inexpensive instrument, but I say I've sold a lot of these and everybody leaves with a smile on their face. like literally, like I.
Yeah, that's the point. We want people to be happy with what they get.
And they're very happy with what they got, and I haven't had.
Very.
I haven't, like some people we haven't seen in a long time.
No.
Yeah,
and that's another thing. I was mentioning tuning earlier. Like you can bring your instrument back for service if you need it. First tuning is free.
Yeah.
We rarely see people bring them back. I mean, it's like maybe 5% at most. It's just a handful of people. So I'm really proud that even when I do get them back, like I'll test them and I'll look at them on the tuning software. And they're all really stable and still pretty close to being in tune.
Yeah.
Usually people bring them back because they got dropped, damaged, or something like that. So, all right, another thing to consider is location for service of the tuner.
Yeah.
So, for instance, let's say you're buying something online, it was made overseas. Let's say you do drop your instrument. Who do you take it to?
Yeah.
So that's a big problem for a lot of people when they buy instruments. Maybe it's a lower cost instrument. But over the period of time, they realize, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this repaired? I don't know who made it. So that's one thing that, again, we pride ourselves here with is like the location. We're within the United States. Shipping isn't usually, it's fairly expensive these days, but it's not completely unreasonable. If you live in the areas, you can always drop by here in the LA area and just drop it off. And so there's all sorts of options for service in case you do run into problems, if you have any damages or something goes out of tune.
Yeah. For sure, and that's a good thing. As long as Dave's in business, we can.
Literally, no. Yeah. I always tell people like as soon as I learned how to tune instruments, even when I was making steel drums, like it's kind of like being in the mob. Like I'm never gonna get out of the mob. They're always gonna call me. They're gonna find me like, Dave, I need my.
We do get a lot of calls for
Dave,
tuning.
I need my instrument tuned. So
especially when people are buying other handpans and they want to get them tuned. Some we cannot do. It's just we just don't do it.
Well, that too. So there are certain instruments that sometimes people have brought them to me before, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this instrument's gonna be such a headache. I could probably make one faster than tune the one that you're bringing to me.
Yes.
And so occasionally I do reject certain people where they say, hey, can you tune it? I'm like, not that one. No, unfortunately, that one's just not up to par.
Right.
Yeah.
And time frame, actually, this is not on the list, but. Time frame. Anthony was just saying, I'm going to buy one this week. So if you're planning on using it in a certain time frame, like for example, this RS is not available. This is not for sale right now. You have to order it because we don't have it.
Right.
So, but Dave, it's about a month time frame.
Yeah.
About a month time frame. So, that's another planning issue that if you guys are planning on getting it by Christmas. So that's a big thing. So Dave's going to be really busy. So. If you're planning to order it, you might want to get it in soon. Yeah,
and that's not just us too. Like, let's say you're going to buy from somebody else. I mean, literally, when the Christmas season starts coming around, if there's any kind of delays or whatever, you want to make sure you order easy. Shipping problems can occur. All that sort of thing. So whoever you end up getting your handpan from, whether us or otherwise, or even rentals, just make sure that you contact us early so that we know to get you into the queue.
Because sometimes some of the makers I know are like 6 months out to a year or something like that.
It's not uncommon.
So.
Playability. So a lot of people have questions about playability, like the size in the instrument. We used to actually have a smaller size, which was the Luna, and it's actually most of our rentals are a little bit smaller. So this one's 21 inches diameter, and the Luna is 20, so it's only 1 inch diameter difference. But some people found it a little bit difficult on like the larger sizes to reach all the notes. Some people like the smaller size because it fit in their lap a little bit better. So there's, out there in the handpan world, I think a lot of them are now 21-inch. It's
Yeah,
funny
I think
how
it's 21,
over
yeah.
the years things have kind of changed, and there's been certain consistencies now that have occurred over time. And one of them is kind of like the size of the instrument. This is a very common size now.
Yeah, I think 21 inches is about the average size right now of handpans. Like our rentals, like you were saying, are 20-inch, and that's what they used to be. You would see those all the time, but now I think the stainless steel ones, for some reason, they all 21-inch.
Well, yeah, also
or
like
22. That's huge. Though. That's
right. Anything over 21 used to be kind of like a large instrument. Another option too is for people that are concerned maybe with like playability. You can buy a stand for the instruments, so you can sit with it, and you don't have to have it in your lap. Like let's say your legs are a little shorter, then you can get a stand and play it on a stand while sitting or that sort of thing.
Also too, like just traveling, depending on how you're gonna play. Like for me, we just got back from Spain and Portugal, and I like going out into nature, or you're hiking somewhere with a handpan, and then so the size, and then being able to have the backpack and stuff like that, that makes a big difference. And going to gigs, say like we set up at a class one time in the valley, and we had to bring like 15 handpans. So the size does matter. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, another thing about size too, a lot of people have questions about traveling with their handpans. And I've already tested these. I've done it multiple times. When you get onto an airline, a lot of people are saying, how can I fly with my instrument? And so I've taken these on just your normal size carrier airlines that go from large city to large city. And these fit in the overhead bins, no problem. Daniel's gone on international trips.
Yeah.
I don't think he's had any problems. Overhead bin.
Actually, the only problem I had was the bag that I was using. It's kind of big, and it doesn't fit in the X-ray machines when you're going through security. So some of them it doesn't, but they have a bigger one. So just make sure when you're going through, and if it doesn't look like it's going to fit through the X-ray machine, you might have to go to the big luggage, and so they can put it through or whatever. But that's the only problem myself.
And I've done a couple other like test cases where I did put it in the baggage, and I'm a tuner, by the way, so I did it in knowing that if it got damaged, I would just retune it. But I don't know if I've ever had any problems with even in the baggage having any issues with it being going out of tune.
Yeah.
Some people get concerned about getting like a really hard, durable case for the instrument, especially for traveling. And I kind of have my own viewpoint on that. And my viewpoint is that I've seen instruments damaged in like the best case you could ever buy, and it still got damaged, versus getting just like a regular backpack and it's totally fine. So
with
the reason,
no cushion, like
the reason sometimes handpans or any instrument could get damaged in airlines is not usually from being dropped or whatever. It's usually because they have to open the case to inspect it. And as soon as somebody opens your case, there's nothing you can do that can avoid damage because it's in somebody else's hands at that point.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that I've seen happen where they open it up, oops, they dropped it, on the floor while they opened it up. Or there was something inside the case that was hard, and so when they closed it, that hard thing like smashed against the instrument because they didn't know how to pack it properly.
Right.
And so there's all sorts, and I think the forklift hit one that a friend of mine had a perfect durable case, and a forklift hit it. So,
oh my god, went through the case.
So you try your best, but overall, what I found is the carry-on luggage is the best option.
No, it is. It totally is. Like actually, the bags that come with the handpans, or that we give with the handpans, they work. Those work really well. I would just suggest a little towel or something like that, and then just for a little bit more cushion. But I've had it in the overhead, and actually had to check it one time, like at the door, because it wouldn't fit. Local airlines, it doesn't.
Yeah, the
fit.
local ones. Yeah, the smaller planes. Yeah.
So you're gonna have to find either they'll check it at the door, and then they'll put it on top, and then you'll get it back like right away, or you just have to check it. If you check it kind of like a stroller, sometimes they'll take the strollers at the door of the airplane and put them on top of the other baggage or whatever. Again, like Daniel said, sometimes inside the backpack, if you just put a piece of foam or a bunch of clothing or jacket or something like that, that does help. Yeah. No, I did this time. There was one leg that we had to check it, and then it was fine.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
Was there a couple other questions?
This was Anthony. Anthony, we'll talk to you. He was asking about Ember Steel.
Oh, Ember Steel. Okay, yeah. So there's this thing called Ember Steel. I think a company called IASA sells it and promotes it. It's just another type of stainless as far as I know. And I've used both. I've used regular stainless and Ember Steel. And I mean, the change or the sound to me was just very slight. I personally kind of like plain steel better, or plain stainless steel.
Yeah, there it is.
There
it is.
So it's just like a personal.
I think it's
preference.
a marketing thing. You know what I mean, or a personal preference.
Yeah, it's a personal preference. I mean, I think the reason they might have given it a different name is because it's like a different type of stainless.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's regular plain steel. You can have regular carbon or low carbon steel. So low carbon has less carbon, which makes it a little bit mellower of a sound.
Oh, see,
right?
This is all nerdy.
Yeah, super nerdy stuff, right? But again, it's just plain steel. So, but if it's harder to explain it to a customer if you don't kind of give it a name.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been a reason why they gave it a name is because it does have a slightly different, well, it's made up slightly different materials, like whatever the chemical compounds are that are inside that steel. And then it does have a different sound, but again, that sound is going to be up to the listener and the performer.
Actually, the tuner.
Like. Yeah, and the tuner.
I think the tuner.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Let's see.
We did playability, bottom notes.
Oh, bottom notes. We talked a little bit about bottom notes.
We talked a little bit about bottom notes,
yep.
But this is only on the RS12. B, G, F.
Yep.
Actually, I have a student. She loves playing the bottom, just like that. She has one of the Luna ones, but that's what she likes to do. So
yeah.
You know, and you can do that. That's what's cool about like having bottom notes, because you can play and then flip if you want to, or learn how to play it just like this, and then you get those different. But it takes practice. You're not gonna get it right away, so.
Yeah, it is. Practice getting the swing of your hand.
Yeah, like to come
away
underneath.
From gravity, it's a little odd.
I've just done hits so many different times. Like people look, like when they see Dave or me play, they're like, "Oh, are you hitting it?"
Yeah. So, but bottom notes are great. Some people just want the top notes, and truthfully, on the point of bottom notes, sometimes people think more is better, and I just want to make sure that everybody understands is that sometimes when you start putting more and more and more and more notes on an instrument, you're adding frequencies. Every time you do that, you're adding extra frequencies, and sometimes those frequencies can start disturbing other notes. And so I'm not saying it's bad to have a bunch of notes. I'm just saying you need to make sure that those notes are really set in stone, like the tuner really knows what they're doing, in order to get the best quality of sound out of those notes. And again, that's like half on one hand. What is it? 6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other.
Yeah.
Where some people want the playability, they want to have all of those options, and they're not so concerned with like, does it have the perfect sustain? They're not so concerned with like the perfect quality of note. They want to have as many notes, and they love playing all these notes.
Yeah.
I tend to be more concerned with the quality of the sound. I really like the quality of the sound. So I tend to use fewer notes and not go with as many notes as I've seen some handpan tuners out there. But again, it's like a personal preference. Some people they balance it out. They like, I want more notes versus quality. So,
but Dave, you know, normally, like if you're beginning, you know, stick with a D minor, I would say, and then go from there. You know, if you're when you start getting into other scales and stuff like that, you have a specific reason of why you're playing, so you'll know at that time what scale you want. And Dave does do custom scales, so, and that's when you would talk with Dave and see what would work for what you're trying to do, because we do have people that do get specific, but it's very rare. It's only for people that are like, hey, I'm trying to record this specific thing, and I need a certain sound. So
the custom scales are a little bit quirky sometimes, because I personally know that like certain notes just won't work. They don't sound good, and so when a customer says, hey, can you put that note on there, I'm like, well, I can, but it's not going to sound good.
Right.
And then sometimes they beg, oh, please, 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 and then I make it, and they're like, oh, that note sounds a little funny. I'm like,
Right.
I told you up front it was going to sound funny. So, but you know, that's the way it works. So over a period of time, I've kind of learned which scales and which notes do sound good. So I try to give those customers that feedback, and I say, hey, maybe not that note, but let's try this other sequence of notes, and try to get the best product to them as possible.
Awesome.
Yep.
Hopefully we haven't confused you already. So.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts
You
of
give
stuff.
me sometimes too much information. It's too crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, but overall, I think when you're choosing a handpan, a lot of people are choosing by price these days, but you really need to think about quality and why you're purchasing the instrument. Like, what is the reason you're purchasing it? And if you really want to have an enjoyable experience, like Daniel was talking about earlier, like if you buy something at a low cost, it might actually be harder to play. You might not actually get that enjoyment and fulfillment out of playing that instrument as you would if you buy one that's a little bit more expensive and that might be made by somebody who has more experience or just takes more care with building it. So
yeah, when you play them side by side and you hear the sound difference, then that's when you can choose. Like, oh, I can deal with that. That's fine. But if you don't hear that sound difference, most of the time they'll get the one that they think that's good, but it's not. You know what I mean? And then, like you're saying, playability and all that other stuff. But why? That's gonna be the most important factor. Whether you're gonna, like I think it says on here, perform, meditate, record. Most people just want it for relaxation. And it's something. Sound does heal. Whether it's for keeping your brain good, just by hearing good sounds over and over and over again. And you, for some reason, you're watching this. For some reason, it's the handpan. Music has not touched you this whole time until you heard the handpan. It's kind of crazy. So, and it's the sound that captured you, and it is an intoxicating sound.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's really wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you for tuning in. All these questions, those are great.
Yeah, thank you.
So who was it? Anthony and somebody
Anthony
else?
And wow,
Up at the top.
stealing happy hours.
Stealing happy hours. Yeah,
I like
cool.
that. Stealing.
Yeah,
happy
thanks so
hours.
much for the comments. You guys really helps move the dialogue along, and also your questions really inspire more commentary and all that sort of thing. So thank you.
This Saturday, if you guys are in the area, I will be doing a free handpan class if you haven't been to one, but it's fun. I teach some basics on how to play handpan, and hopefully it gets you started. And you also get a chance to try some of the handpans. And if you're thinking about renting, you can come pick it up. Stuff like that. I think it's Saturday at 11. So check our events calendar. It's on there. Like we said, we have a sale coming up. Check your emails. That'll be coming out soon. And then coming into Christmas, make sure that you guys are, if you're seriously thinking about it, getting a gift and you want it on time, I'm gonna beg you to order early.
Yeah.
Order early so Dave can finish it.
There you go. That's right. All right. I think that's it.
All right. You want to leave them with a little bit?
Of course. You can play along. I don't know how you want to do it.
All right. I don't know. Just Dave. I like Dave starting. Awesome. See you guys later. Have a good one.